Be sure to go to flipsidegaming.com and use promo code 6 for 10% off on orders over $10. You can do the same at the Grizzly Gentleman for some fantastic beard products that'll make your beard look and smell great. You can also go to TCG Player using the affiliate link below and shop there to help support the show. And last but absolutely not least, go to greyvikinggames.com with the link below to get those sweet arena codes. What is up, Planeswalkers? Theric expect more Magic the Gathering. Today we're going to be talking about the spoilers for Magic the Gathering Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. This is a set that is taking the place of 2021's core set. It is going to still have reprints. However, they have confirmed that there are going to be fewer reprints than a typical core set. As this takes place in the Forgotten Realms, this is Sword Coast, it's Faerun, all of that stuff. There's going to be a lot of references to Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, it's a Dungeons & Dragons set, but there's going to be a lot of references to established characters. I'm not going to know all of the characters. It's very possible that you know none of the characters. Wizards of the Coast owns both Dungeons & Dragons as well as Magic the Gathering. It also owns a bunch of other random board games. I believe last time I checked, they were still the owners of Guillotine. That is a little card game I have where you play the head taker, head lopper, the operator of a guillotine during the Revolution in France. Anyway, we're gonna hop on into it. I believe technically spoilers start actually today. I could be super wrong. Meaning Monday for all of you. But I'm just going to go through this first batch and kind of give my thoughts on the individual cards as well as the set overall, and then some of the artistic choices that they've had. So here we have Cloister Gargoyle, 3 mana with 0/4, not great, but it allows you to venture into the dungeon, and this is a new mechanic that allows you to select one of 3 dungeons that operate in the command zone. So these are cards that are not sideboard cards. These are cards that you functionally always have access to. What this means essentially is they live in this weird zone. I think technically this is the same place that schemes are located in, planes. It for sure is where Planeswalker Ultimates, the thing that lasts a long time, I don't remember. Those things stick around. That's the location of a lot of things, and that's where the dungeons will be. If you do not have, if you're not currently in a dungeon, then you choose one of those 3 to select. If you are in a dungeon, you must advance through that dungeon before you can pick a new dungeon, and you can pick the first one again. As long as you've completed any dungeon, Cloister Gargoyle gets +3/+0 and has flying. So it can become a 3/4 with flying, which is pretty decent for 3 mana. It allows you to do dungeon stuff, which is part of the mechanics. My assumption is that this is going to be a pretty decent uncommon if there are enough good cards with good dungeon effects, right? And what I mean by dungeon effects is not just going into the dungeon, right? That's kind of just part of what the card is, how it functions. But the bonuses, the benefits you get from completing dungeons, or maybe being in certain types of dungeons. I doubt they're going to reference specific dungeons, but they might. It would be cool if this was, this gets +3/+0 for each completed dungeon. If you've completed at least one dungeon, it has flying. That way it can scale more, so that it might have been more constructed worthy. However, as it is now, it's probably just going to be limited stuff. Then I'm going to draw your attention over here, to this alternate art or alternate frame type thing. This is meant to, pay homage to the old school monster manual monster stat blocks. So it has that very kind of off-white coloring. They also obviously it also just has a different type of I want to say lexicography, but I don't know if that's the right word. But it has a different style of how things are separated on the card, and I think it's pretty cool. It's not something that I'm not drawn to this the same way I'm drawn to the Call Time style, but it's still something that's pretty cool. A Flumph, a lovely Flumph. 2 mana, 0/4 jellyfish, defender flying. Whenever Flumph is dealt damage, you and target opponent each draw a card. So, first thing I'll say, I'm a little saddened that they didn't make Aberrant a creature type, and this would be an Aberrant jellyfish. I think that would have been really cool, because Flumphs are related to things like beholders, mind flayers, in that they're like all classes aberrants, which like they're not humanoids, they're not a specific like race of things, they're not horses or whatever. They're not monstrous, because monsters are in our world, in the prime material. But aberrants are from like this different space, this weird stuff, right? It's even more weird than like the Feywild and the Shadowfell, right? It's far out, man. Very Lovecraftian. So I do wish they had that. About the card. This can work. I think this card's pretty bad in limited. Unless you're pretty sure that your cards are just way stronger. Like if you have a deck full of just hits after hits, then yes, I think this is probably worth it. But in terms of constructed, you can do stuff with this in Narset. Obviously, this is historic because this is a historic channel. You can do interesting things here with Narset. Since when it would be defending, when it would be taking damage, it would be during your opponent's turn. They've already drawn a card this turn, so they're not going to be able to draw, so you get to benefit from that draw. Additionally, you can have pingers that allow you essentially to hit this card repeatedly and be able to gain card advantage there. You can use this in conjunction with other things that care about you drawing cards. So if you're playing like the draw two type things, gosh, what is that? What is that called? Something in invention. It's is it enchantments? There's also like Fairy Vandal, I think is the one. There is a bunch of stuff like that cares about you having the second draw. And since those are already in red colors, it's red blue typically. You can splash the white to get a little bit more maybe like control-y style stuff. But since you're already in red, you can have things that deal damage to this. That allow you to do more shenanigans to get more triggers. This is kind of supposed to be like, hey, look, it's card draw in white for Commander. It's not, though. If you're playing a 4-player Commander game, then this can theoretically help you and the other person who's like in the last place. Or if you're just like, if you are one of the lead players, you can just give this to the person who's least likely to actually be detrimental to your plans. So I can see this, but like, I play a lot in a pot of 3 because I have 2 best friends that I play with, and man, this card would just suck because essentially you're giving 2 people cards, and then that last person's just fudged. So we'll see. We'll see if it actually sees any play in Commander. I don't have a high opinion of this card. Gloom Stalker, 3 mana 2/3. As long as you've completed a dungeon, it has double strike. It's a ranger. Ranger technically is a recent addition. They have, I think there are only 2 creatures, Quirion Ranger, and I think there was one other card that had Ranger in the name. They've modified those creature types so that they are now Rangers. As you can see here, we have more Rangers. The thing is, I feel like they should have like switched to this, right? Where they have the D&D set first, and then like we get to Zendikar, and then they can have the party mechanic be larger, right? And include more of the actual classes in D&D, because now we have Rangers. We have Warlocks from Strixhaven, or at least more Warlocks. So it would have been really cool to have that, but whatever, it's fine. This one gets you double strike, but obviously it doesn't come built in with a enter the dungeon effect. As a 3 mana 2/3, possibly okay in limited. Really depends on what the rest of the format looks like. Nadar Selfless Paladin, 3 mana 3/3 legendary Dragon Knight. I love me some more knights. Very interesting. Oh my god, I just realized something. Very interesting that the Dragonborn. God, is that the name of it? I don't even remember. Because of the fact that I'm like, oh, is it just Skyrim? I legitimately don't know, and it's worth it to me to look up. It is Dragonborn, okay. The Dragonborn are just dragons. That's fine. I think that's pretty cool. I'm happy they did it that way. Has Vigilance. It's a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, venture into the dungeon, other creatures you control get +1/+1 as long as you've completed a dungeon. So the buff here is not super huge, and it only applies once, but he gets you through dungeons very quickly. The fact that he has vigilance also means that obviously you can like protect your life total while you're still attacking, getting through for some dungeon advantage. And what I love, the reason I was like, ooh, I have a Boros, Sylvia and Korvath, dragons and knights deck, and I've separated it so half of the creatures are dragons or dragon related, half the creatures are knights or knight related, and this one gets to be both. So I'm super excited to play this. I guess one more thing I wanted to point out is that rangers get to be rangers, paladins I guess are knights, which I'm totally fine with. They're functionally the same thing. This is just one of those cases where it doesn't make a ton of sense to have paladins when you already have knights. So it's whatevs. And then of course there's the alternate style. Portable Hole, absolutely hilarious. This is a straight up D&D reference. Portable Hole is a type of magic item. This one is just a 1 mana white artifact. So I didn't talk about this with Cloister Gargoyle, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. I really, really appreciate that Wizards is really leaning in more to colored artifacts. I really appreciate them doing that. When there's the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls with mana value 2 or less until Portable Hole leaves the battlefield. So this is an interesting thing, right? Like it's very similar to not Seal Away. The one with the dinosaur is like it's 2 mana and it exiles a I think it's CMC 3 or below creature. But like if they destroy that, they get a dinosaur. This gets to exile non-land permanents. So if, you know, maybe you're playing some sort of older format where there are 2 mana planeswalkers, cough, Ren and 6, you can go ahead and just exile that. In older formats, like this is not terrible because a lot more things are going to be, you know, CMC 2 or less. This can hit Tarmogoyf, for example. The issue is that artifacts, very easy to interact with. Enchantments, I think, are still slightly less likely to be interacted with, even in more eternal formats. But still, like there's been some decent slow progressions in removal for these eternal formats. So when it comes to standard, I frankly I don't know. When it comes to historic, let's see. This can actually get rid of a lot of pesky things. The issue that I'm facing here is that it helps a lot against red-green or red-black decks. You know, there's a lot of things I'm thinking of that are red, green, or black, essentially. But red and green can both destroy artifacts, like, no problem. So, who knows? Shortcut Seeker, more rogue. 4 mana, 2/5. When it deals combat damage to a player, venture into a dungeon. You know, it's bigger than a. This is a better pillar Fort Ox pillar field, whatever. The like generic 2/4 for 4 white mana, or 4. You know what I'm saying. This is just like better than that, and it's in blue, which is just like frustrating, but whatever. The reason I'm saying this because it's also common. If it was like uncommon or something, like whatever. Yeah, I mean, this seems fine. It doesn't have innate evasion, so you have to, like, do something with it. The fact that it's a 2/5... Like, whenever I see a stat line like this, my mind immediately goes to, like, this is something on the field... I'm just talking about limited, by the way. This card has no application anywhere else. Where it's just on the field to gum up the ground while you fly over in the air. So this definitely makes me feel like, you know, blue-white flyers or something like that. So we'll see if that actually is some sort of thing, or if maybe rogues will have like a little tiny sub-theme of getting unblockable or something. Tasha's Hideous Laughter is a magic spell. Do I have Tasha's with me right now? I don't remember what my most previous thing had. I do not believe I have Tasha's. I don't. I'm very sad. Anyway, Tasha's Hideous Laughter is an actual spell in D&D. And this one, 3 mana, sorcery. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until that player has exiled cards with total mana value 20 or more. So lands have a mana value of 0. So essentially, if your deck is running 40% lands, right, you got some cool percentages here. Additionally, if you're playing in a more eternal format, unless you're playing against a strange combo deck like Living End, you will find that a lot of CMCs are pretty low. I mean, even in Historic, a lot of CMCs are pretty low. So I feel like this can be a very nuts, like, end game card in the mill decks. Hell, even if you just like, had a super kind of janky one where you played like Pactum Negation, you have Bruvarak or whatever the Azorius guy's name is, and then you cast this with Counterspell mana up. Your opponent's probably toasted. Like, I think that maybe you can do kind of a mono blue control deck that happens to run essentially the combo of Millman, some cards that mill just by accident, you know, just as an after effect, and then bada bing bada boom, your opponent has lost. That's cool. Dungeon Crawler, 1 mana, 2/1. Hilarious, I love it. Enters tapped. Whenever you complete a dungeon, you may return Dungeon Crawler from your graveyard to your hand. I am sad that this returns to hand. The reason I say that is because it doesn't start a dungeon, right? And I love it when zombies come back straight to the field. I feel like if this just like said, like, whenever you complete a dungeon, you may pay, even if it was like 3 mana or something, to return Dungeon Crawler from your graveyard to the battlefield. It'll come in tapped. I feel like that'd be fine. But whatever. It's still cool. I still like Dungeon Crawler. Loft, the Spider Queen. She is the patron mother of the Drow, I believe. She is rude, incredibly rude. And in this, she's kind of visualized as a Planeswalker. Now, Loft isn't actually a Planeswalker. I can't remember. I mean, obviously, she's not a Planeswalker. Technically speaking, planes in D&D are much different than they are in Magic. I think she resides in the Shadowfell, but I could be wrong. Do not quote me on that. I know, like, Drow are just, like, in the Underdark and shit, but I think she was banished to the Shadowfell. Regardless. 5 mana, 4 loyalty, Planeswalker. Whenever a creature you control dies, put a loyalty counter on Loft. I love it. Yeah, I mean, like, this can just go in so many different decks. You can make a longer form, like, more mid-range control Jund Sacrifice deck that I would love to see, because I'm sick of all these Sacrifice decks being stupid and annoying and killing me so quickly. 0 ability, you draw a card and you lose a life. That's absolutely reasonable. Black does that. -3, create 2/1 Black Spider creature tokens with Menace and Reach. They're good on offense and defense. You get 2 of them. Really nice. If they die, you're going to get counters on your Loft. Notice, she does not have any plus abilities. The only way Loft can have more counters placed on her are via, you know, effects like Proliferate or your creatures dying. Cool stuff. -8, so you have to have minimum 4 creatures die, or 4 instances of Proliferate, whatever, in order to ultimate her. You get an emblem. That's the thing I was thinking of. Emblems reside in the command zone. Whenever an opponent is dealt combat damage by 1 or more creatures you control, if that player lost less than 8 life this turn, they lose life equal to the difference. Essentially what this is saying is, minimum, I am going to combat damage you for 8 every time. Minimum. Which is just cool. So with Loft, it really seems like you kind of want to go with this kind of small theme. So she might actually be pretty decent in a, obviously spider-themed deck, sure. But she might be okay as a little bit of extra oomph on the back end for like a Death Touch tribal deck, right? Because one of the main issues with the Death Touch decks is the fact that the creatures are usually very small. You know, they're usually just a little bit of power, you know, 1, 2, maybe 3. And then Loft can give you a way, since you're going to be blocking with those creatures anyway, you know, you're going to be killing things, maybe you're going to be using fight cards. Your creatures are going to be dying a lot. So you should be able to get that 8 relatively easily, and now your opponent is going to be more likely to just get domed. Power Word Kill. This is a cleric spell, I believe. Hilarious. 2 mana, instant. Destroy target non-angel, non-demon, non-devil, non-dragon creature. I love this card. I could be super wrong. I feel like this will be the go-to black removal spell in Historic. I could be wrong. We might get a lot more like dope angels, dope demons, dope devils, dope dragons. But I think that this is very similar to Victim of the Night. Victim of the Night, I think, couldn't hit zombies, werewolves, or vampires. Vampires is like a legitimate, tier 2 or whatever deck in Historic right now. Werewolves and vampires, we don't have that right now. But Victim of the Night, if I recall correctly, is a black-black spell. This is a black-white spell. That fact makes it a lot more splashable in something like Grixis Control. And yes, sometimes, you're going to be going up against the white lifelink deck that runs a lot of angels. You're going to come against a Jund sack deck. They play Mayhem Devil. You're like, I can't deal with this. And then maybe they cheat out some dragons or demons or whatever. But I think in the majority of matches, you're going to have good targets for this. And then if you combine that with like a very powerful and flexible 4 CMC card, like I don't know, the one that you can pay 2 for and let your opponent draw a card. I can't remember all of the names of the Magic cards that I play. All right, there are too many. Baleful Mastery. Is that really what it is? Jeez. Now I've played this game too much. Yeah, I think this is going to be. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this is going to be like the new prime black historic kill spell. I think it's just so incredibly good and efficient. I love this card. Also, the art is sick. Vorpal Sword. This is a they're not called legendary. I think they're called artifacts in D&D, like the rarity system. I want to say that when the highest rarity, they're artifacts. And I want to say the Vorpal Sword is an artifact. Obviously here, it's an artifact. It's a black artifact, which is pretty dope. A equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has Death Touch. Makes sense. It kills things. It's good at killing things. That's what it is known for. 5, triple black. Until end of turn, Vorpal Sword gains whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player. That player loses the game. It is so rare. They're going to. This is 8 mana. It's so rare that you're going to be able to do this in Historic, but technically it's possible. Think about like Chromatic Black, for example. That deck is able to produce a large amount of black mana. The main kind of issue with Vorpal Sword going into that deck is that Chromatic Black is typically a control deck, because one of the main ways of getting good use out of the amount of mana that you can produce is by playing these insano cards at the top end. Stop scratching that, Kedjubs. Yeah, meow. Sorry. But it's possible that we might be getting enough more aggressive style creatures in black that have mana sinks. Obviously, the main one that I think of is, Vampire Nightblade? Whatever, the 1 mana Knight. You also have the Draugr from Kaldheim. I think he gives himself +2, but he might just give himself menace. Not entirely sure. Doesn't matter. Then obviously you have the Swamp Thing, the 4 mana 3/3 that cares about swamps. So you can definitely build upon having creature-based mana sinks, running this, and just like kind of out of nowhere. Like you can just attack, and like if your opponent doesn't do anything, you're like, all right, tap Cabal Stronghold, use that mana to tap Cabal Stronghold. I have like 11 mana, use 8 of it, you're dead. So I think it's just pretty fun, pretty cool. It does have to be combat damage, so I'm very happy that they put that in. Otherwise, it could be cheesed way easier. And then what's interesting is that this is an equip cost of black. This is not splashable, and I love that. I want Wizards to put stronger effects on cards that are harder to splash. I want in the coming days of Magic to have more intertwined pips, right? If Teferi, for example, was a white blue card, it would not have been as oppressive. So, like, the card itself, when it lands, would still be annoying, but it wouldn't have been able to fit into essentially every iteration of blue-white control, because the mana isn't always there. So, yeah, I'm definitely an advocate for much more restrictive mana costs. I think they lead to more interesting deck building decisions, instead of just having to, it was like, all right, this is literally the strongest card, I can put it in this deck. And then it's only gameplay decisions. I like when deck building decisions matter just as much. Eliwick Tumblestrum. I have literally no idea who this character is. But this frog is absolutely adorable. It's so cute. I don't care what any of you say. I will kill everyone and myself if anything happens to this frog. 4 mana. +1, or 4 loyalty, I should say. +1, venture into the dungeon. Sure. Just nice dungeon generator. -2, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. If it's legendary, you gain 3 life. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. There are things like Kethis decks, maybe those can make a slight comeback, try to be a little bit less combo-y and a lot more value-oriented. The main place that I see this is in my Captain Sisay deck. I have a Captain Sisay EDH deck. It's called Girls Night Out. All of the characters and references have to be to females, otherwise can't be in the deck. And since there's a lot of legendaries, this female character would go great there. -7, you get an emblem with creatures you control, have trample and haste, and get +2/+2 for each differently named dungeon you've completed. Now, at present, there are only 3 dungeons. That said, this can be a buff of up to +6/+6, which is nuts when you think about the fact that it also gives trample and haste. Even if you've only completed a single dungeon, this is still trample, haste, and +2/+2. Like, that's nutso. Like, all of your creatures just coming down hitting. But I wouldn't be surprised, and this will take like at least 5 years, I think. But the way dungeons work, right, is saying venture into the dungeon is a pretty generic thing, right? Venture into the dungeon. Here's a good example, I think, of a place that we could see this mechanic come back. When we go back to Amonkhet, right? The survivors have set out across the deserts of Amonkhet, and I hope that Wizards take some of that information we saw from the story, from the lore, where people were finding these ancient pyramids and buried structures that had the story from the old Amonkhet before Bolas showed up. So I think it'd be very interesting if that was a focal point of kind of like Indiana Jones style dungeon delving, but by the natives and not a random archaeologist. I think that'd be pretty interesting. And then you could have, again, these venture into the dungeon things where you have traps as well or something. A bunch of different like pyramid types. You could have maze of the Sphinx as a dungeon. You could have Pharaoh's pyramid, Scarab's way, something like that. I don't know, some sort of cave system. There's a bunch of different things that you can do on a few different worlds, but I think Amonkhet is the best one I can think of. Obviously, like, it works on Zendikar as well, because of all the Skyclave stuff. But I think this is a mechanic that can come back, and relatively easily. I think it can apply to many worlds with some sort of adventuring feel, and it wouldn't feel out of place. So this has the possibility of getting just even stronger later on. And the reason I say this is because the other ones, probably not as much. This is something you can see in like Commander and stuff, so you're going to be able to play with like all of them, essentially. But yeah, I really love this card. And the frog. Prosperous Innkeeper. Halfling Citizen. I don't think we've had halflings before. Nope. Huh. So the interesting thing here is that Kithkin were essentially like Magic's halflings. They're not dwarves, they're not gnomes. They're just kind of diminutive humanoids. So I'm wondering if WotC is going to change Kithkin. I doubt it. I'm assuming that, like, Kithkin has some tribal support, kind of, sort of, not really. I doubt we're going to get halfling support. But it is a bit odd because of some other cards that I don't think I'm actually previewing today. I'm only previewing like the official ones right now. I'll probably get into the more spoily ones later on, but for right now I'm keeping it to this. When it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Sure, cool. 2-mana 1/1 makes a treasure. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, gain 1 life. I could see this in... Nah, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know where this goes. I legitimately just have no idea where this goes. By the way, I should mention Citizen is a creature type, like, already. I hate my life. All right, incredibly rude while that loads. Battlehammer. This Battlehammer man. Dwarf Warrior, cool. 4 mana, 5/3. For each creature you control, gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it. You may pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate each turn. Has like Pure Steel Paladin vibes to it. Your creatures get a little bit bigger. I hilariously recently just played a deck for the channel that was all about equipment. Imagine, for example, having Hammer Time, or Colossus Hammer, and then this. You're like, free that, and then like 2 mana, I'll equip another thing that gives a trample. Bada bing, bada boom, you're dead. Right? So I think that's very interesting. It's another choice for like a Voltron commander, maybe. Or just even in like the 99. So like, for example, I have a Ruhan of the Fomori Voltron deck that's all about equipment. And the reason I have the deck, literally the only reason, is so I can play all of the swords of blank and blank. That is the reason. I was like, I really want to play all these swords. How can you do that? I was like, well, I have Ruhan. And he do be attacking. So I was like, let's do it. But yeah, like can be in the 99 of a deck like that. Generally, pretty cool. More dwarf support is also nice. Wait, citizens have only ever been tokens? Well, that's awkward. Do I have to say this? Drizzt Do'Urden. This is apparently a very famous character. I know very little. I've heard the name. I don't know about Drizzt. I say that. Illustrated by Tyler Jacobson, though. Cool dude. 5 mana, 3/3, double strike, elf ranger. This is a dark elf? No, I literally just said what they were called. Drow. Like Loft, she's the queen of the drow. When it enters the battlefield, create. Okay, now they're just messing with me. How? What? When you are. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. Legendary 4/1 green cat creature token with trample. Whenever a creature dies, if it had power greater than Drizzt, put a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the difference. So the idea here is like if your cat friend dies, Drizzt gets a little bit bigger. It's similar-ish to the 1-mana elf, whose name I refuse to remember, and it also feels very similar to the dude who makes Voja. Not Tristani. The Leslie dude that makes Voja the wolf companion. Very, very similar to that. Like, mana cost similar, stats kind of similar. But still, you know, cool creature. Unfortunately, Historic has just become too fast and annoying to play cool creatures like this. Tiamat, baby! Tiamat is... Why am I, like, just giving lore? You know, I don't care. People, if they watch this, they're probably going to enjoy the lore anyway. Tiamat is the progenitor of the prismatic dragons. The dragons of color. We have red, white, black, green, and blue. I believe she fought with... I want to say Bahamut. I might be wrong with that, but I believe that that's the progenitor of the chromatic dragons. Silver, gold, copper, brass. Silver, gold, copper, brass. I feel so bad for the last dragon that I'm completely forgetting. Who cares? Cobalt? I think it's Cobalt. Anyway, she was like banished to the 9 Hells, or at least the first layer of the 9 Hells, and she essentially like made a deal with Asmodeus, the leader of the 9 Hells, to essentially set up shop there and be left alone. So she resides in the 9 Hells, just waiting essentially for her her cultists to summon her back to the mortal plane, where she will wreak havoc because she was fucking banished for being an asshole. Yeah, she's evil. But 7 mana, 7/7, flying dragon god. I kind of wish she was an elder. Now that, like, I've gotten more used to elder, I would have liked to see this be an elder dragon god. Just because, like, then you can still play, like, true elder dragon Highlander with her. Whatever. When she enters the battlefield, if you cast it, only if you cast it, search your library for up to 5 dragon cards, not named Tiamat, that each have have different names. They have 5 total different names. Reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. This card is so cool because it incentivizes you to play dragons. You're not like, you can maybe play some like combo dragon stuff, but you're only able to search for the dragons, and you only get this effect when she's cast. So it's not like you can abuse it with ETB effects. So it ends up being, like, in my opinion, a more interesting way of playing dragons than a Sign of the Ur-Dragon. Now, personally, you're okay. Personally, I play the Ur-Dragon, and I like, I just like the effect that he has. I will probably try it with Tiamat as the commander, but what I'm more likely to do is just have Tiamat in the 99, where she could just, like, refill my hand. And you might think, like, you're playing a dragon deck, when's your hand going to be not full? Yeah, playing a 5-color dragon deck, dragons known for their high CMC, you have to play a lot of, like, ramp and card draw and stuff to make sure you actually, like, can cast your dragons. So very often you can be in a situation where you don't really have all that much to do. So Tiamat helps a lot with that. I just think she's really cool. I love the 7 mana 7/7. It kind of harkens back to that the Elder Dragons, the OG ones. Really cool. Love this card. Evolving Wilds is a new art. It's pretty cool. I don't have lore for this. I just think it's cool. Then of course we have this other style. This is meant to look like the old school adventure modules. Right. This is kind of like what the front of the book looks like. It's not for me. No, I much prefer the, I mean, I don't like either the treatments in this set, but I recognize that someone who's played old school D&D would absolutely love this, right? And I don't want to take that joy from them. I think this is, even if you don't, like, love this style, if someone wants to play this card, let them do it. Like, you probably don't care all that much when your opponent casts some lightning bolt with Pikachu all over it, like it's an altered Pikachu, right? Or it's Pikachu on an altered lightning bolt. So let them play, like, with these cards. As long as people aren't, like, using this for obfuscation, I think it's fine. People will play different language cards, and if they do it for obfuscation purposes, if they're trying to conceal what the card does and get an advantage there, then that's scummy and call them out on it. But if your opponent just, like, likes playing with this style of card, don't hassle people. Here we have essentially the last card. It's a Plains. I picked this one out because it talks about 10 towns, which is in Icewind Dale, which is the story where we all can die. Spoiler alert for those who haven't watched the Icewind Dale, but it was a D&D campaign run by Merchant, and yeah, we fucking died. But it's just cool that they're referencing this. But also, note that this is the first, I believe. There maybe was, like, some sort of purple stuff, but this is the first normal printing of basic lands with flavor text. I think that's really awesome. And what's also pretty cool is that these all sound like, and I should go over here, these all sound like descriptions by a dungeon master. You've traced the tension. I can't speak words. You've traced the tensions in 10 towns to the dwindling reindeer populations. But what has been hunting them? Seeking to learn why the ancestors have fallen silent, you've made your way to their ancient cairns. Right? These are all, like, world building from, like, the perspective of being told this. You're at the D&D table playing with your friends, and your DM is talking about these places for you. And I absolutely love it. Absolutely love this. I don't think that there's any, like I'm surprised at how little this looks weird to me. Like, I thought, I'm used to seeing just the empty text box with just the symbol. But I think this works really well. I think they did a very good job of making them look pretty awesome. And then, of course, there's just a bunch of different places on, I think it's just the Sword Coast. This talks about Waterdeep. There's another one that talks about, I think it's a swamp that talks about Baldur's Gate. which is a lot more grim than I think of it, but you know, whatever. This is in the Underdark. I think technically all of them have one in the Underdark. This is the Underdark. I want to say that's the Underdark. This is the Underdark. I think that's just a cave system. I want to say this is just a cave system. You have like a mountain stronghold. It's pretty sick. This is the Underdark. It's just super cool. Like, I really like these lands. I've talked before about how I really prefer kind of setting agnostic lands. You know, like kind of old school lands. See if I can kind of show any. Sorted by descending. Ascending, dumbass. Not these, because I don't like these as much. You know, like these just are planes, you know? Like, when I look at these, I can feel the essence of plane. Not this one. But for the most part, I can feel the essence of planes. Even this one, you know, it's like the Great Wall. But that still feels right to me. You at some point, you get to the more thematic things, you know, things like Mirrodin, and I can still feel planes from them. But there's definitely something different between a field of razor grass and a field of, like, wheat, right? Done by the same artist. This is one of my favorite planes, actually. I really like the simplicity of this, and I love Mirrodin. But these lands make me feel that as well, while still evoking a little bit more fantasy from them. But like even this, right? This style of island reminds me a lot of the ones from, I want to say, Mercadian Masks. Not all prints, unique art. Please. Ascending. I want to say it's the ones from Mercadian Masks. No, it's not, because I'm stupid. Oh, it's the ones from Invasion. Like this stuff. It feels like this. Onslaught. Like that's kind of how this feels to me. I typically don't like lands. I mean, for what it's worth, at this point, like, there's no other cards to talk about. If you want to bounce, that's fine. I'm just going to talk about lands for a little bit. I don't like lands that involve settlements and people. Specifically people. When they have settlements, it's not as bad. Like, this is kind of fine, but, like, if there was a person, like, noticeably, like, standing here, I wouldn't like it as much. Like this one. I don't like this that much because there's a person in the frame. But this still feels like a generic mountain, while not actually being a generic mountain. And I like that about it. For what it's worth, the swamps don't evoke that too much. Oh gosh, my favorite swamps. My favorite swamps, though, are probably... Please. I want to say they're also Invasion. I mean, this is a good one. They're not Invasion. It's Odyssey. These two swamps. This is what I think of when I think swamps, man. It's just a fucking bog, and I love it, man. This is, you know, that whole acidic aesthetic. You got some underworld stuff. Got like weird time rifty stuff. These are relatively pleasant because they do kind of look swampy. Sewer system, you know, sure, but you know, after that point, I think these are reprints. I don't think I did unique art on this one, but you know, like there's relatively few swamps. You know, we have some of these, but yeah, like it's I want to love the swamp. I hate the swamp because there's people in it, but it just. Something about those first swamps that I showed you they're just fantastic. Like even this one. Just they feel like swamps. Actually, a lot of the Tarkir ones A lot of the Arcade ones look pretty good. I mean, like that. I mean, that one's just like fucking perfect. Yeah, it just feels like it just feels good. You know, like this just feels like it could be like a 5th edition mountain. This looks a lot to me. I don't care that I'm showing like almost all of these. There's I think it was during Ice Age, maybe? No, I think it was earlier than that. Because I don't think it's a snow-covered forest. But they're, I mean, like, these are like stylistic forests, but they still feel so much like forests. Masks forests are fucking great. This forest is great. Like, this one's fantastic. It's very similar to this that I'm looking for. Oh, yeah, it was Ice Age. Yeah, like, this, for some reason, this forest just, like, reminds me of these forests. I think it's just, like, the bark? Is that it? Yeah, I think it's just, like, the way the bark looks. I mean, obviously, Lorwyn's forests are going to be pretty good. But yeah, I'm really liking these basic lands. I mean, you know, even this, like, it has people. But, like, this is a giant coniferous forest. Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm really excited for Adventures of the Forgotten Realms. Mainly because there's going to be a lot of sick D&D art that people can use in their Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. It's great. I love it. Feel free to send me stuff to a PO box. Got to thank my lovely patrons once again for the financial support. If you'd like to join them and support the show, you find links in the description, or the easy way to like or to help the show out is by liking, commenting, subscribing. That stuff really does help out. I'm very happy that I've nearly completed an entire week of daily uploads. We're back. I'm super happy. I'm doing well. Anyway, until next time, all will be one.